All right, welcome back. Just did the video that should be processing soon for the upgraded the Spyderco Native 5 lightweight to a deep carry pocket clip from MX Gear. Nice titanium pocket clip. If you want to watch that, go look at my videos. You'll find that. Very simple upgrade. Just a couple screws, a little bit of blue Loctite, and boom. Really nice pocket clip. Makes it more comfortable, a little more ergonomic just because of the way it's contoured, but also gives you that deep carry. So check it out. And then we've got another Spyderco. So I'm divesting myself of a lot of my knife collection, the knives that I just don't carry really much. I'm keeping most of my classic knives, the Bokers, the GECs, one of the case knives, my Rough Rider reserves. But as far as like my one-hand opening, more tactical EDC knives, I'm really gravitating towards the lightweights. This is up for comparison for size in a minute. But I'm really gravitating towards either carrying Swiss Army knives or something like this, or a bug out, or maybe this new Delica. So here's what we've got. We've got the new Delica, VG10 steel, made in Japan. So this is not one of the US made ones, but it's made in Japan. This is a good knife. Size-wise, it's just a little bit smaller. It has about the same length, but it is a good bit lighter. It's a tiny bit heavier still than the Benchmade because this does have milled steel liners underneath the plastic. So we'll get into the specs here in a second. But VG10 steel, the blade is 3 inches with a cutting edge of 2.5. So basically about the same, really, as the Native. That's got a 3.5-inch blade with a 2.5-inch cutting edge. This one does not have a finger choil, but it does have a longer handle. So this one, where you might choke up a little bit more between the jimping and you've got your finger choil, I mean, you could really get in there and push and do some stuff. You kind of can here. You just hold it a little differently. Here, you know, I choke up on this because when I hold it back here, my pinky comes off the end and it doesn't hold right. So I'm always holding it like this. With the Delica, it's a little more natural. You don't have a finger choil, but you actually have a fairly generous little shelf here. And with this ramp here, that this does not have, that really gives you the ability to kind of do some real intricate, precise work. Or if you had to push that into something, your hand's really kind of locked in place. Your hand's locked in place here too, between the finger choil and this. But I don't know, some people might like this. It's a thinner blade. You can see that right there. Let's see if I get my hand there so it focuses. Focus. Yeah, so it's definitely a thinner blade. Very slicey, very sharp. Let's grab a slice of paper. Let's see. How's it do out the box? Haven't even stropped it or anything. Yeah, I mean, out of the box, it's a Spyderco. It's going to have a super keen edge out of the box. I'll run it over the strop real quick just to make sure there's no burrs anywhere, but it's certainly a good slicer. Oh, push test. We'll do a push test before the stropping. Yeah, oh, very easily. Very nice. Let's do it out near the tip. All right, not near the tip, not quite as much. But right there, effortless. So that's a very sharp blade. Like I said, we'll just run it over the strop real quick and clean it up and make sure there's no burrs anywhere. But it feels really good. Very simple, VG10. I went for the purple. They had black and they had camo and some other stuff. I got purple, and I like this because it's a little goofy looking. Because as an EDC, this is even closer to the weight and size of the Benchmade bug out. You know, the Benchmade's got a slightly longer blade and stuff, but these are so featherweights, even more so than this, because this has got much more steel. The FRN, this is surprisingly light for its size. Who knows, they may be about the same weight. Maybe it's not that much of a difference. But when it comes to the thinness and the slender blade and just, you know, being really good slicers, this is going to be closer to a Benchmade bug out, size-wise. Out the door with taxes from Old Town Cutlery over in Cumming, Georgia. Just giving them a shout-out. They give me nothing other than good service like they do with every customer. But they don't sponsor me or give me any discounts or anything. 99 bucks out the door with taxes for the purple one. So I got the purple one because, you know, if you are in an office environment or you're in a restaurant or somewhere where you had to pull out a knife, You pull these out, these look more tactical. The perception, I know it's not, it doesn't matter. A blade's a blade, right? Anybody that's a knife guy knows that. But to people that are surrounded by in public that aren't knife people, especially when you got a lot of stabbings going on lately in the media, there are certain knives that when you pull it out, that looks more like a weapon, right? That's scary to some people. That's an assault knife in some people's eyes. And even this, just it being black or just having that more tactical like looking blade. I got this in purple, just because it's different. But it looks a little bit more like a tool. It reminds people more of a Swiss Army knife. It's colorful, it's bright. It for whatever reason, it doesn't seem as sinister or weapon-like. Someone's just like, oh, that's a cute knife. Yeah, it does the same thing any of these things do. It will still make a hole in somebody or something. And it still would be very slicey. But the perception is when someone sees something like this that's just kind of a goofy color, they're like, I don't know. In people's minds, it's like a toy. It's like, oh, that's a cute knife. That's a cute little knife. But it's actually a very, very, very capable blade. It's got a nice strong lock back. It's good steel. You can really grab something and cut and do some work. It doesn't flex a lot. That's one thing like here. I mean, look at this. This thing flexes a lot. The blade flexes, the pivot flexes, the grivery handles flex. Now that makes it a lot lighter because it doesn't have that little bit of steel reinforcement. But that little bit of milled out steel that's in there only adds just a tiny fraction of an ounce. But that handle barely moves. So this is, I feel like it's a little stronger of a knife than the Bug Out. So we'll see how it holds up over time. Still got to get used to figuring out how to flick open lockbacks. This one, for whatever reason, this one actually does flick open. You can give it that snap. This one kind of does, but it takes a lot more effort. It's a heavier blade that feels like there's more friction. And I think because this hole here is further out, you get a little more leverage than when it's tighter in. This lends itself more to that, which is still nice. It's still very smooth and opens up one-handed. But this one's just a little more fidgety. And it doesn't open, well, this is brand new, so I'm sure it's going to loosen up. That one's already starting to loosen up. But I'm sure as I sit there on the couch flicking it and driving my wife crazy, fidgeting with the knife, that's going to start opening a little bit easier, a little bit better, and just smooth out. They do a pretty good job in there of polishing the edges and stuff like that. But this metal's going to rub on that over time, and it's just going to basically start to smooth and polish and hone out any little burrs and anything like that. So that's the Delica. I mean, for an EDC knife, it's really small and really light. I would put this right up there with the damn Bug Out. And it's about $40 cheaper. Now you can say, well, this is S30V, so maybe that's a step up from, VG10. But VG10 is a really good steel. The Benchmade's going to be a little more fidgety. But I think it's a cool looking little knife. And I didn't used to like Spydercos. This one I liked because it had a good blade shape and it was ergonomic, and the blade handle was really big and fit your hand. But this is on the big side of an EDC knife, right? You've got a blade that's 3.5 with over a 3-inch cutting area. It's over 8 inches. It's almost 8.25 inches. That's a fairly big, knife. And that's a great knife, if you want to carry it as in an area where you can't carry a firearm or something, and you want something you can flick open and, really, if you had to do some damage with something like this and use it in a pinch, you can. You can do that with any knife, but that one is really kind of more, hence the paramilitary. This is more designed as a bigger, heavy use and basically a tactical folding knife. It's quite a bit bigger. Let's do a size comparison here. You look at something like that, it's a good bit bigger. That takes up a lot more real estate in your pocket. This one's a little longer, but it's not as wide, it's not as tall, and it's not as thick. So when you're looking at the two side by side, you're like, oh, they're pretty similar. Yeah. But there's a good bit of difference there. Height-wise, I guess because of the taller blade, it's probably not that much smaller. But it is definitely, it feels lighter, but I don't know that it actually is. They're pretty damn close. This one, they did a really good job with the FRN handles. Despite how thick they are, there's a little bit of flex, but this thing is pretty damn light for the size of the blade. It's tall, it's thick. So I can't say that this is really that much lighter, but in my hand, I mean, I can actually get a little more on it. while still choking up and having that thumb ramp there. That is, to me, that gives you that jimping on that slope. It's really hard for your thumb to slide off. Here, I feel like more ease. Not that it doesn't hold you and lock you in pretty well, it does, but your hand would be more likely to slip up. If you really had to stab into something and you hit something hard, your hand could ride up. Here, I mean, you're going to jam your thumb, but you're going to keep your hand off that blade. So that's the Delica. I would say the Delica is probably almost as famous as far as an EDC folding knife as the Benchmade is these days. This might have been the go-to, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is what Benchmade was gunning for when they went to create this. They're like, you know what, the Delicas, the Dragonflies, some of those little Spydercos. God, I love the action on this thing. That's kind of what they were going for. But I find myself grabbing these a little bit more just because this, I don't know, it's so thin, and because there's no real contouring to it, it's just, to me, I don't feel, I mean, if I'm just slicing an apple or cutting paper or rope, opening a package, yeah, it's fine. But I feel like if I had to do anything significant with this, it's very narrow. There's no contouring here. The jimping's way back here. When you choke up on the blade, it's smooth. There's nothing up here. There's no traction. Knives like this, knives like this, knives like that where you choke up. Where you choke up here and that jimping is right where your thumb is. This, I think, is a better execution than the bug out. What the bug out has going for it is, I guess it's a long, thin, very good steel, and it's just insanely light. But with that lightness comes that bit of flexibility and a bit of flimsiness when you're doing certain tasks where you're like, I don't think I'm going to break it. You probably won't, but it doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence. You feel like you might break it. Something like this is, despite it being plastic and light, it feels like it's a tank. I mean, the blade thickness is significantly more, right? So anyway, it's about this one. This one might be my new lightweight favorite single blade EDC. As much as I like this one I just don't carry that much because it's just too big. I mean, I can carry it. I certainly have in the past, but these days I'm kind of going towards the smaller knives. Just got to get this one to break in. I'll notice the point, there's a little difference on the point. See how that kind of, it goes out and then tapers at an angle, it steepens. I don't know what that's for. I think they're all like that. Whereas that just goes right to a point. And this one has, a swedge on it, and this one doesn't really. So this one feels a little bit more substantial, and it's S30V, so it's a step up from the VG10. So that's a hard call. If someone was to ask me, well, which one do you prefer? I don't know, man. I mean, this one's thicker and chunkier, but it's shorter. This one's a little more lithe, L-I-T-H-E, lithe. But I can get a grip on it. I think if I was doing hard tasks, this one feels a little bit more substantial. I feel like I could go in and pry or cut or do something a little bit more in an emergency situation. I think, though, for just every day and just opening packages and just needing a knife, this one is probably going to be the one I'm more favoring. So there you have it. The Delica in a purple, so it doesn't look as mean and scary. That really was my reasoning. I could have gotten the other colors. But I was like, you know what? I think people would see this and go, oh, that's cute. Instead of, dude, why do you got that kind of, I mean, just people are weird with that stuff. So anyway, that is what I got to say. This, it's a tough call, man. They both feel really good in the hand, especially now that this has got that deep carry pocket clip. I'm going to see over time which one I carry more in my head. And I don't know if it's because it's just a week newer, so it's new. Ooh, piece of candy. They're both really nice. That's a tough call. The texturing is fairly similar. These edges are a little more rounded and beveled, where these are a little bit more of a hard line. They're still softened. There's nothing that's a hard edge that's like uncomfortable. But I think the contouring on this one, it's a little more rounded and melted in a way. Like if you think like concealed carry firearms, they'll say, oh, they got the melted treatment where they round and really soften all those edges. This one feels much more like that. I mean, that is a really nice, smooth, as opposed to, we took the edge off it a little bit, but it's still kind of that hard, squarish edge. So anyway, I don't know what else to say other than both really great knives, man. I don't know why I didn't really consider Spyderco for a long time. I only had this one. And I know Spyderco makes some of the best EDC knives you can buy. They got some bunch. Now, a lot of them, I guess maybe it's because a lot of them, they just look a little weird. Their designs are kind of odd looking. And so I was like, that doesn't look as cool to me as something like that, right? It's a little bit more traditional and not wonky. And so I just never really gave Spyderco a fair shake other than the PM2. But then as I started playing with this and that, and then the PM3, and I'm kind of like, actually, Spyderco's a lot better than I thought. And I never doubted their quality. But as far as what appeals to me, I just never gave them much of a thought. And I think I should have. So I know I'm a little late to the Spyderco party, but there it is, folks. All right. Anyway, I'm going to stop prattling on. You have yourselves a good day. We'll talk to you.